and welcome to episode 3. So, as we continue with the Access Consciousness theme, I have with us Cathleen Connor today. So, let me tell you a little bit about Cathleen. So, Cathleen comes to us from more than 30 combined years of experience in parenting, teaching as a special educator, and facilitating consciousness classes. She has been a catalyst of empowering youth, parents, and teachers in both mind awareness and body to allow dynamic, joyful living. Kathleen has co-authored 2 books, Possibilities in Parenting being one of them, and the other one, The Lightness of Choosing You, alongside with also hosting a radio show and a YouTube channel called Growing Up Conscious. For the past 12 years, she has been internationally certified as an Access Consciousness facilitator focused on teaching youth and adults to tap into their own innate knowledge to create a thriving life. Thank you so much for joining us, Kathleen. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. It's great to be on.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about, so it's been 30 years of parenting, teaching, and all of this, but how did the spiritual approach or path came about for you?
Well, yeah, I had to condense that, right? Because there's so much. I grew up in a Catholic family, and I kind of just did what I was told in church, you stand, you kneel, you do this, you do that. And I kind of just went with it. I didn't have to go to Catholic school like my brothers, so I didn't go through any harshness with that. But by the time I was in college, I just wasn't feeling like that was my path. I looked at a different kind of Christian group that was, in a way, it just felt too judgmental to me. So for a while, I kind of put it aside. But I was always reading and always exploring and always checking things out. I was introduced when I was back in middle school, when I was told to study a religion. I was introduced to Hinduism and heard about multiple lifetimes. And I thought, well, that's interesting. But I've always been willing to look at it from a point of view of things may or may not be true, but what feels like most expansive for me, that keeps me growing and keeps me asking questions, right? So while I was raising 2 sons and also teaching full-time, I was still doing classes in neuro-linguistic programming and yoga calm for children and the body talk system. There's so many different things I tried. So by the time I was introduced to Access Consciousness, I kind of appreciated that they didn't use the word spiritual. They used the word consciousness and being conscious, because some people even use spirituality to judge, like what's right and wrong. So that aspect of being willing to keep expanding your consciousness is what appealed to me with Access. And then there's many things, and we'll get into questions, but that aspect of continuing to grow and expand and just being yourself is what changes the world. Like just being willing to be fully you, that by itself can change the world.
It's funny because the more guests that I bring on and the more I ask them about their spiritual path, I think one of the things that's very similar in many of us, it's that curiosity. That always reading, that always something, okay, I'll find out about that. Without judging it in a way, we were open to finding something for whatever reason. So I love that you said that. And yeah, also with the Access Consciousness, that is one of the things that I also not admire, but I also noticed that it was okay, that's different, but I like the way that feels. They're not spiritual, they're not personal development, they just are, whatever it is. And I love the fact, at least for me, everything is what you just said. It's the being authentically you. It's the coming to what you are, that it's not right or wrong. There's no judgment. And there are so many other things, we're not even going to get into topics of them, but there's so many things that they're quote unquote good for people that they're judging everybody else. And this modality, this way of thinking, this whatever we want to call it, seems so just refreshing. At least that's the way that I see it.
Right. And that's part of the reason why I love introducing kids to it as well, because kids can get so confused with all the conflicting messages out there.
Right. So let's talk about that. So what exactly do you do with the kids? How do you teach them this, or how do you talk to them about this? What do you do?
Well, in regards to the Access Consciousness tools, there's multiple things I can do. One is teach them actually how to do energetic body work.
Okay.
So that's one thing where kids often pick up on it much quicker, like how you can easily touch somebody and ask for change in the body, and just having that second person there, almost like an observer, like they would call it in other modalities, to help people change things in their body if they would like to change them, right? So energetic body work. And then the consciousness tools, like I wish I would have known when I was young, just the question, who does this belong to? For your thoughts, feelings, emotions. And for me, which I didn't know until I studied Access, even for your body pains, right? Like I didn't realize that when my body walks by somebody, like one example, when I was still working in school, I came into a second grade classroom and I got, squatted down to talk to the student, and my knee started hurting. And I'm like, that's weird. And I just, you don't have to have an answer to who does this belong to. You just have to know that it's not yours at times. But I asked the question, and then I looked over, and the teacher had gone through knee surgery.
Oh, wow.
And just by walking in her classroom, my body was aware of that, right? So if you don't know that, because my mom said when I was in elementary school at one point, I was hobbling around and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I wasn't like walking normally. And they tried all these different things. They could never find out what was going on. But she said to me later, I think you just felt bad for this other boy in your class that had some kind of disability. And it didn't even come back to me until I was an adult to be like, oh yeah, I used to take on my dad's stomach pain. Oh, I used to do this and that, right? But whether it's thoughts, feelings, emotions, or body pains, or any number of things, if kids get that they're aware of all the beings around them, and that if somebody they care about is sad, they often will be sad, or, any number of things like that.
Right. So based off of that, we're not taught this. Thankfully, you're doing this, and there's many others that are doing this. So thankfully, you're doing this and you're bringing that awareness to kids. When we were kids, we weren't taught this. Obviously, I have a child who's 20 right now. So the things that we pick up as children that we don't know is not ours, and we just assimilate it as ours. It doesn't matter how many years, it doesn't matter even when, we could still remove them through tools, we could still remove them through different things. But that could be a reason why we're so many down the path of we don't even feel ourselves. And it's probably because we've been picking up all these energetic things our entire lives, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we both know that for young adults, anxiety, stress, depression are way up. And, culturally, we can see why that's true. But there's tools that, other than taking medication, which is often the way that a lot of people end up doing, whether they self-medicate or they go see a doctor, there's so many tools to alleviate those kinds of things and make your life just much more ease-filled and bring you back to a joy space. So that's why, again, I think it's really important for people of all ages to become aware of consciousness tools that can get them back to the life they desire, instead of getting stuck in all these different energies.
So I'm going to throw the wrench. What is it? The monkey and the wrench and the monkey. There's a saying like that. I don't even know why I'm thinking of that now. Anyways, I'm going to throw in a controversial thinking.
Yes.
Like in marketing, we don't want to sell. Like when I tell people business marketing or coaching or this or that, you don't want to sell to an audience that's not interested in your product. With the comment that you just made, there are many people that don't believe in consciousness. They don't believe in the body could heal. They don't believe in we can pick up something from somebody else. Obviously, we're not trying to convince them. We're not trying to oh my God, you have to do this because this is going to be. But when you come across somebody like that, what can be said to them, or what would you recommend? We can't convince anybody. Nobody wants help if they don't want help. But how to get them to be a non-believer to a, hey, just hear me out and try it?
Well, what you said was so key. Like if somebody is truly not interested, then I don't know that. I mean, I might ask, mainly, I would ask a question because unless people can come across it with their own awareness,
Mm-hmm.
like when your parents like, is that really working for you? They say it from a point of view. So you can't say it from a point of view. But if you could say, is your life really working for you? Do you have any sense of the gift that you are to the world? Um, do you have everything you desire? Would you like to change something in your life? It's if you ask questions without a point of view, then it's up to them whether they want to look at that energy or not. But if they
Mm-hmm.
truly have no desire to look at any kind of change, it's better not to really say anything. Just
Right.
listen to them, be present, barriers down, listen to them. Just be a person that allows them to share whatever they want to share and don't try to like quote push on anyone. The question that they ask in Access is, what can this person receive from me, if anything?
Okay. Okay. Because I mean, I know people both ways. I know people that it's like, yeah, you respect it, you don't push because I mean, it's not their agenda and that's fine. There are some people that might be interested, but because they've also heard that all of this is like woo woo and new age and like whatever they've classified it as, they've never been, like we said at the beginning, open and curious enough to say, okay, I'll give this a try. But yeah, I think with the questions, it'll probably be their own awareness that would have them answer yes or no, even if they don't know why.
Well, I can add to it that by the time a friend of mine pointed out the booth, the Access Consciousness booth at like a Body, Mind, Spirit Expo when I lived in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And so I went to try it out. And the first time I tried it, I just got like a 20-minute session. But you have the crowds, the lights, the everything. I'm like, well, that was relaxing, but it didn't really like wow me, right? So fortunately for me, a friend of mine was teaching a class in the Access bars, which is the energetic bodywork. And she was so charismatic about it that I went to class, but I went to the class with this point of view of like, it's just going to be like everything else. So I kind of came in skeptical myself. I
Mhm.
was a single mom working full time, had a lot on my mind, right? But after I did that full day Access Bars class, my body was so grateful by the end of the day that I'm like, I don't know what this is, but for my body's sake, so it's probably my body that got me to do the Access Consciousness tools because there's a lot I learned about consciousness for my mind as well, but my body really benefited from the energetic body work and regularly receiving that.
So that's the second time I hear that today. So I think I'm going to go ahead and find somebody here in Houston right now because my story is kind of similar. So I got my bars run and we became fast friends and I went ahead and did her bars class. So I have done one bars class. I have not gotten bars ever since. And I think it might be about 2 years now.
Yeah.
However, when I did have her do that and when I did do the class, I was very much in my head, very much judgmental, very much thinking of different things. I was not with the barriers down. I was not allowing. I was not just having fun. I was like, oh, whatever. Now it's like, okay, this is interesting. I think I need to do it because I've been using the rest of the tools that I have been using, but not the actual body bars run again. So, okay.
Well, the thing about the bars too is you've done your first class, so now you can trade with anybody who's open to trade.
Right.
Like you can just put it out there. Hey, I've done a bars class. Who wants to trade? Because the benefit of the bars, unlike people always say, is it like Reiki? And Reiki is more like energy in, right?
Mhm.
The bars, unlike some other things, even that Access teaches, some other body, it's like clearing stuff out, clearing it out, right? So if getting your bars run, it allows you to create everything else in your life too, because you just keep clearing out the old stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So because you've done a class,
Right.
I thought my first class was so expensive, but if I had known how many trades I would do for free after doing that first class, I used to hold weekly trades at my house, right? You can go trade with somebody,
I'm definitely going to do that. So, that I've been traveling. So I did
Yes.
do that for the swap. I couldn't end up doing it because they were like, oh my God, yes, I want to do it. I want to do it. I'm in. But they were like an hour, 45 minutes out. And I had no car. So
Yeah.
it's like, can I find anybody like closer? So, but now that I'm in Houston for a while, I'm going to go ahead and look it up because, yeah, definitely, I want to feel that expansiveness again because I'm in a different place. And I think that's part of what Access has helped me with. It's been removing like the whole right, wrong. It's like I have been able to see it doesn't have to be this way and it doesn't have to be this way. And it's okay. And my inner
And that's
control
not what
thing,
school teaches you, right? School teaches you to have the right answer. You know,
right.
like I have a son in medical school, and he's like, no, this is the way it is, mom. He's luckily open about things, but we get taught in traditional schools to have the right answer instead of always questioning and not going into conclusion, right? So
Right. And actually, we were taught not to question because if you were to question them, that is disrespectful to the adult. Why would
right.
you be questioning the adult? He's the one that knows. So yeah, and I guess in a way that's also why I'm saying it's so awesome that you're doing this with the kids because then it's a generation that grows up more open, more good for them, but more good for everybody else because it doesn't have like all this dogma and heaviness and weights and craziness that we have gone through that many of us are now like, oh, okay, I can get rid of this. That wasn't mine. But so how old are the kids that you're helping or you're teaching? Is there an age limit?
No, it can be any age. I mean, I often reach out to alternative schools and let them know that I can teach the energetic part, body work. I also, here in Florida with, there's a place called Vedic Moons. There's various different places where you can go in and do intros, and then people let me know if they're interested. So it's whoever kind of comes to me, whether it's a parent who wants to support with a child with like ADD or autism or learning disability or any of that a number of things that kids labels that we can put on them, or it's who I end up talking to. It can be any age. Like my kids didn't find out about it until they were teenagers, and so they kind of didn't. They thought it was too weird. My son did do some of the classes, but it is kids are usually more open the younger they are.
Okay, awesome. And then the other part that I wanted to mention too is I know you're a facilitator. So just because we're doing this whole season thing, could you tell us the difference between what a practitioner is, an access consciousness practitioner versus an facilitator?
Well, there's various different pieces. So when you take one bars class, you're a practitioner, so you can do sessions on other people. If you take 3 bars classes with 3 different people, then you can teach it. So you're a bars facilitator, which is what I am right now. But then there's also, I have been a certified facilitator in the past as well. I'm not right now, but a certified facilitator in Access, they've done a whole list of classes, right? And they can teach many different classes, one called the Access Foundation, but there's many different classes they can then teach that are more not just focused on body work, but on clearing limitations and points of view that you have that hold you back.
Okay. So every class is different and different facilitators can do different ones. Now,
Correct.
I do know that in the Access Consciousness website, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of information. The clearing statement, I know that they describe it there. So there's a lot of tools that they do make available. And a lot of different people also have tools available online. What would you recommend would be, or let's say, what was your experience, the one tool that it's like your go-to that you would tell people like, no, this is my like lifesaver, quote unquote.
Well, it's funny because one tool you learn at Access, if you remember, is how to ask yourself like heavy light. Like, and when I say heavy light, for me, it's more like which one is more expansive, which one feels more like it's contracting me. So which one will the other question you can ask is like, if I choose this, what will my life be like in like 5 years, right? So if I was approaching as an adult, if I was approaching the website, I would kind of see and look and see what pops for me, right? But for kids, let's say a child that has a label like ADD or autism, there's books for that. Like, would you teach a fish to climb a tree book? So there's some kid books, but then a general book that a lot of people love is Dane Here's one of the owners has a book called Being You, Changing the World. And that's a good starter book because it kind of gives you a sense of the gifts that you be in the world. I mean, the thing that Access really helped me with is I didn't have low self-esteem, I wouldn't say, but I also didn't kind of get how valuable I am just being me and being willing to not hide who I am and not, contract myself around people, like just to be willing to be me in the world. So that for adults, that's a good one to start with, but you really follow your own awareness, be in the question. Like if you go into the shop and something pops for you, like there's another good beginner one is like magic. It's called Magic You Are It, Be It, So there's various different ones there. But if you're looking for something in particular, like there's Marilyn Bradford wrote one called Right Recovery for You. So if you're dealing with some kind of, getting off of alcohol or drugs or something like that, that's a wonderful book. So there's so many there. It really depends on what you'd like to change as well.
Okay. That's awesome. And I think I'm going to go, because I haven't read it, I've seen it. What is it? The Being You book that you just mentioned?
Being You, Changing the World.
Being You, Changing the World. I'm going to go and purchase it myself because I have seen or heard parts of it or this or that, but I've never really fully read the book. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But that is one of the things, and I'll talk about my experience, like in my life. I'm going to jump everything and just say maybe 6 months to a year ago. It's not that I don't know who I am, but with life, you become something, right? And you shift away from things in life that for XYZ reason, you shift. And now I find myself at a place that it's like, I've done that. I did that. I'm good. But there's more.
Yes.
But I've kind of gotten not lost, but I have to refine myself as in the magic of who I am.
Yeah.
Because I feel I've come, and here's the key thing. I feel I've come drained to this point. Like everything that has happened in life, I feel like has been like, okay, it's been a stepping stone. I've grown, of this, of that. But now it's like I have this opportunity to all the possibilities, to all the different things that I can do. And instead of being excited, I'm just kind of staring at the doors like, do I have the energy to go through this? Or what do I do? And it's such a weird feeling. It's like, and everybody
I get that.
And it's like,
yeah. Well, it's the other thing we don't teach kids is that choosing creates more awareness. So if you're kind of like, just like, what can I add to my life to create the life I desire? And it might be really crazy. Who knows? It could be anything. And just start choosing things. It doesn't mean you have to stay with them, but just start like choosing things that are enlivening for you. Like for me, I've been here in Florida for 3 years and I'm letting go of my place at the end of May because I got offered a job to work at a farm school up in Massachusetts. And for me, working with kids outside has been something that I love to do and I want to continue to do, and I want to see how they do it, right? So even though it's not like a lot of money and all of that, it wasn't really like something that I thought was coming next. That was what felt light and expansive to me. I can still teach the bars classes, I can still do other things along with it, but I really want to learn more about how to work with kids outside and like the systems they have that are in place for that. So just starting to choose things, whatever they look like what gets you kind of enthused about being alive. Like for me, I love swimming in the ocean. I did that this morning. And in doing that, because I love doing it, it kind of gets me more alive for like, what else do I want to create in my life? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think for the Being You, Changing the World book, I'm pretty sure it's still true. There's a website where you can get the first chapter to listen on audio if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just beingyouchangingtheworld.com or something like that, where Dane here has recorded the first chapter in many different languages.
Okay.
So if you want to listen to it, you can, and then go from there.
Okay, awesome. And it's funny because I actually gifted it to somebody and I always had in the back of my mind, I should have bought two and I should have read the other one. It's like, I'll read it, but I've never bought it. But I'm like, okay, I think now my next tour, wherever I pick up and go next, I think that's going to be the book I'm taking with me. Definitely, for sure, because I've always wanted to read it. And I think now is a time that I'm kind of like, I think any time is a perfect time. But my awareness right now is kind of like, this is the book I need to read. Like, there's something in there that you need to do.
It's popping for you.
Right. It's kind of like the little flag. It's like, I'm here, look for me. So no, and that's amazing. Congrats on getting that from Massachusetts, because and that's actually what it is. It's when we talk about choosing something and wanting something and following the desire. Again, a lot of people might talk about it logically, but it's understanding that feeling. It's understanding so one thing I want to be clear on this call, when we talk about asking questions, access consciousness is very much into living in the question, right?
Yes.
Very much into, you're asking the universe, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. You're asking a question, not looking for an answer in your own mind. Because
you're looking to open the energy. Like, right. A lot of people don't swim in the ocean because they're worried about sharks or other things. So before I step into the ocean, I often say, what energy, space, and consciousness can me and my body be to have ease and joy with this? And again, I'm not looking for a specific answer with that. It's just like, so I'm asking my body to be aware. If there's anything around me, let me know, So it's more like kind of pre-paving your experience, as they would say in some other modalities, right? Where you can ask a question of like, of anything, like, how can I, not why questions, because they bring you back into your story. Like, why did this happen?
Right.
That brings you back into your story, and you don't want to empower a story that's not working for you. But more questions of like, what kind of energy can I be here to create what I'd like to desire? And it's not like one answer that just opens the question for you to be aware.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's in that awareness. Excuse me. I think it's in that awareness that you have a feeling. It's like, okay, this is what I desire. Because I think so many of us come, and I'll say for me, there are points in my life, there are moments last year, or there are moments this year that you feel so blah. And yet you still go ahead and ask a question. You still go ahead and move about your day. And little by little it shifts. And then you're good. But if we don't do this for ourselves and we don't bring awareness, then there's no point in getting the tools and in doing this and in listening to conversations like this. It's an up to day-to-day practice until it becomes a habit, until it becomes a part of you. Because one of the things that I laugh with very, very much about access consciousness practitioners or facilitators or people that try it, you guys know how to talk. And that's the part that I laugh. You guys know how to talk and like asking the right questions. And I'm still trying to formulate the question. And I'm like, how do you guys do that so fast? They're like, why don't you say it this way? And it's
There's
like,
no right, wrong question either. So don't worry. Like, even just using, how does it get any better? Or what's right about this that I'm not yet getting? Like, if something crazy is going on, or like when you're feeling blah, who does this belong to? Like, the basics are always there. Like, how does it get any better?
Right. So I know we're running out of time, and I want to thank you so much. I love the work that you're doing. I love the energy, because it's also that kind of feeling as in, yes, that's what we can live and that's what we can experience. Where can people reach out to learn more about what you do, where you offer, where you're at, or anything with the kids?
Yeah. So one thing, as you mentioned, is I have a YouTube channel now called Growing Up Conscious, where I interview people, and sometimes I just go on and talk about topics. I also have a website that Cathleen Connor speaks for the public speaking type things, but you can contact me through that. And my other website having to do with working one-on-one and that kind of thing is called exuberantlybeing.com. Okay. But yeah, if you go into the Access Consciousness website and you put in find a facilitator and put in Cathleen Connor, you'll find me that way as well. And you'll find a lot of facilitators. So if you go on there and you're looking for somebody in Houston, like in your case, you can search for who's there that way too.
Okay, awesome. And either way, I'll make sure to put all the links down below in the description for everybody. But for sure, I want to stay connected, and I'm going to check out the channel and, subscribe and do the whole thing. Thank you so much, Hun, for taking the time today and joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It was enjoyable to speak to you.
And thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.